The last thing my father ever said. I know what you did. The next morning, he was dead. And I was the one who killed him, but let me tell you, it wasn't as simple as it sounds. This is a story of love, betrayal, and the past refusing to stay buried. If you think you know the truth, think again. It all started on a cold, rainy night. Sophia sat in her father's study, her hands trembling as she held the glass of whiskey. Her father, Robert, sat across from her, his eyes sharp and accusing. I know, he said, his voice low and dangerous. Sophia's heart raced. How could he know? She had been so careful. She and Daniel had been so careful. But now, the truth was out, and there was no turning back. The next morning, Robert was found dead in his study. The police called it a heart attack. An easy answer. But she had planned every detail. No one would suspect her. A few drops of poison, perfectly measured. She watched him take the first sip, hands steady, heart cold. When he was gone, only silence remained. But let's rewind. Let's go back to the beginning, to the moment everything changed. Sophia was 23, beautiful and trapped. Her father, Robert, was a wealthy businessman, a man of power and control. After her mother's death, he became overbearing, controlling every aspect of her life. He chose her friends, her clothes, even her college major. Sophia felt like a prisoner in her own home. Young Sophia, 16, huddles under her bedsheets, clutching a framed photo of her mother. The door slams open. Robert looms in the doorway, his tie loose, whiskey in hand. Sophia, V.O. I swore I'd never wear pink again, but on the day I married Daniel, I found a white thrift store dress with sunflowers stitched into the hem. Then came Daniel. Daniel was everything her father wasn't. Charming, adventurous, and free. He was Robert's best friend and business partner, but he was also the only person who truly understood Sophia. They started meeting in secret, sharing their dreams and their fears. It started with coffee dates and late-night texts, but soon it became something more. Something dangerous. One night, after a brutal argument with her father, Sophia made a decision. She called Daniel, her voice trembling. Let's get married, she said. It was reckless, impulsive, and utterly romantic. They flew to a small town in the mountains where no one knew their names. The ceremony was simple, just the two of them, a minister and the stars as their witnesses. Sophia wore a white dress she bought at a thrift store. Daniel wore his favorite suit. When they returned, they agreed to keep their marriage a secret. Robert would never understand, and they weren't ready to face the fallout. But secrets have a way of unraveling. Robert began to notice the way Daniel looked at Sophia, the lingering glances, the soft smiles. One evening, he confronted Sophia. What's going on between you and Daniel? He demanded, his voice cold and sharp. Sophia denied it, of course. She lied through her teeth, her heart pounding in her chest. But Robert wasn't convinced. That night, he sent her the text that would change everything. I know what you've done. Sophia sat in her room, phone in hand. By morning, Robert was dead. Official cause of death, heart attack. Neat, clean. But Sophia knew better. She had studied every detail. The poison dissolved into the whiskey. Invisible, fatal. When her father clutched his chest, eyes wide with realization, she only stared back. No panic, no regret, just silence. When he was gone, she felt nothing. No guilt, no remorse, just a strange, hollow emptiness. But the story doesn't end there. In fact, it's only the beginning. Because now, Sophia and Daniel must live with what they've done. They must navigate a world where one wrong move could expose their secret. And as the days go by, Sophia begins to wonder, was it worth it? Was love worth the price she paid? Or will the truth come back to destroy them both? Stick around, because this story is far from over. Sophia and Daniel thought they were safe. With Robert gone, they believed their secret was buried forever. But the world has a way of unraveling even the tightest lies. Days turned into weeks, and life seemed to return to normal, or at least as normal as it could be for two people haunted by a dark secret. Sophia moved into Daniel's penthouse, a sleek, modern space that felt more like a prison than a home. The penthouse felt smaller each day, Every creak in the floorboard sent a jolt through her chest. Daniel wrapped his arms around her. "We're safe," he whispered, but his touch felt hollow, a lie neither of them believed. Then came the first sign that their secret wasn't as safe as they thought. It started with a phone call. Sophia was alone in the penthouse when her phone buzzed. The number was blocked. She hesitated, then answered. "Hello?" The voice on the other end was deep and unfamiliar. "I know what you did," it said. A chill crawled up Sophia's spine. "Who is this?" she demanded, but the line went dead. She stared at her phone, her hands shaking. Was it a prank? Or was someone on to them? Daniel brushed it off when she told him. "It's probably nothing," he said. But Sophia could see the fear in his eyes. He was worried, too. The calls wouldn't stop. Sometimes once a week, sometimes every day. The voice never said anything else, just those same 5 words. "I know what you did." Sophia stopped answering unknown numbers. But it didn't matter. They always found her. Then came the letters. The first one arrived in a plain white envelope, addressed to Sophia. Inside was a single sheet of paper with 5 words typed in bold letters. "I know what you did." Sophia felt the room spin around her. She showed it to Daniel, and for the first time she saw real fear in his eyes. "We need to be careful," he said. "Someone's watching us." But who? Sophia started to notice things. Small at first, but impossible to ignore. A car idled outside the penthouse longer than it should. A man in a black hoodie trailed her through the grocery store. At night, shadows loomed outside her window, unmoving, watching. She told herself it was paranoia, a trick of the mind, but deep down she knew better. Someone knew the truth, and they weren't going to let her forget it. Then, one night, the power went out. The room plunged into darkness. She froze, heart hammering against her ribs. "Danielle?" she called, her voice thin, uncertain. Silence. She fumbled for her phone. Nothing. No signal, no light, just her own ragged breathing. Then she heard it. A soft creak. A footstep on the floorboards. She swallowed hard, her pulse roaring in her ears. "Who's there?" she whispered. The darkness didn't answer, but something, or someone, was there. The lights flickered back on, and Sophia screamed. Standing in the middle of the room was a figure in a black hoodie, their face hidden in shadow. In their hand was a knife, its blade glinting in the dim light. "You think a drop of poison makes you stronger than him?" the figure hissed, their voice sharp with familiarity. "He begged for your mercy, too, just like you will." Sophia backed away, her mind racing. Was this the end? Had their secret finally caught up to them? But before the figure could take another step, the door burst open. It was Daniel, his face pale and his eyes wide. "Get away from her!" he shouted, lunging at the figure. There was a struggle, the sound of fists hitting flesh, and then the figure was gone, disappearing into the night. Sophia collapsed into Daniel's arms, her body shaking with sobs. "Who was that?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Daniel didn't answer. He just held her tight, his own hands trembling. The next morning, Sophia found a note slipped under the door. It was written in the same bold letters as the others. "This isn't over." Sophia and Daniel knew they couldn't ignore the threats anymore. The figure in the black hoodie, the notes, the calls. It was all connected. Someone knew their secret, and they weren't going to stop until Sophia and Daniel paid for what they'd done. But who was it? And how much did they really know? Daniel took charge. "We need to find out who's behind this," he said, his voice firm but laced with fear. He hired a private investigator, a grizzled man named Frank who had a reputation for getting results. Frank started digging, and what he found shook them to their core. Robert hadn't been the saint everyone thought he was. Frank uncovered a trail of secrets, hidden bank accounts, shady business deals, and a string of broken relationships. Robert had enemies, plenty of them, but one name kept coming up: Evelyn. Evelyn was Robert's ex-wife, Sophia's mother. She had died when Sophia was just a child, or so everyone thought. But Frank's investigation revealed something shocking. Evelyn hadn't died. She had disappeared. Sophia was stunned. "My mother's alive?" she asked, her voice trembling. Daniel nodded, his face pale. According to Frank, she faked her death and left because of your father. He was controlling, abusive. She couldn't take it anymore. Sophia's mind raced. Could her mother be behind the threats? Was she trying to expose Sophia and Daniel as some kind of twisted revenge? The pieces started to come together. The figure in the black hoodie, the notes, the calls, it all pointed to Evelyn. But why now? Why after all these years? Sophia and Daniel decided to confront her. Daniel's voice tightened. She's been using Robert's offshore accounts, the ones he used to hide her. They drove there in silence, the weight of their secret hanging heavy in the air. When they arrived, they found Evelyn living in a modest house on the edge of town. She was older now, her hair streaked with gray, but Sophia would have recognized her anywhere. Evelyn wasn't surprised to see them. "I've been waiting for you," she said, her voice calm but cold. Sophia's heart pounded as she stepped inside. The house was filled with photos. Photos of Sophia growing up, photos of Robert, even photos of Daniel. Evelyn had been watching them all along. Evelyn, stroking a photo of young Sophia. "He locked me in his study for 3 days once. Know why?" Sophia says nothing, voice cracking. "I bought you a dress, pink, with sunflowers. He said it made you look cheap." She opens a drawer, pulls out the tattered pink dress. "Evelyn, I tried to take you with me that night, but he found us." Sharp to Danielle. "You helped him drag me back." Sophia, voice shaking. "Why now, after all these years?" Evelyn, quiet, chilling. "Because now you know what it feels like, to be watched, to be hunted, to live with a secret that twists inside you like a knife. I could have exposed you from the start, but I wanted you to feel it first. The way I did." Daniel, realizing this isn't just revenge, you wanted her to become him. Evelyn, she already has. Sophia felt a chill run down her spine. "What do you want?" she asked. Evelyn's smile faded. "I want you to pay," she said. "I want the world to know what you've done." Daniel stood firm. "This ends now, Evelyn." His voice was sharp, unshaken. "You don't understand," he said. "We didn't have a choice. Robert was going to ruin us." Evelyn laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "You think poison makes you clever?" Evelyn snapped, her composure cracking. "He locked me in his study for 3 days after I wore lipstick to dinner. You only needed 1 night." Sophia felt the room spin around her. She had always believed her mother was a victim, but now she wasn't so sure. Evelyn was cold, calculating, and determined to destroy them. As they left the house, dread coiled in her stomach. They were caught in a web of secrets and lies. No way back now. They had to find a way to stop Evelyn before it was too late. Sophia and Daniel left Evelyn's house with a sinking feeling. The woman they thought was a victim was now their greatest threat. Evelyn wasn't just watching them. She was hunting them. And she wasn't going to stop until their secret was exposed. Back in the car, Daniel gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. "We need a plan," he said, his voice low and urgent. "We can't let her destroy us." Sophia nodded, but her mind was racing. How could they stop Evelyn? She had been 1 step ahead of them this whole time. They decided to fight fire with fire. If Evelyn wanted to expose their secret, they would expose hers. Frank, the private investigator, dug deeper into Evelyn's past, uncovering a trail of lies and deceit. She hadn't just faked her death. She had stolen money from Robert's accounts before she disappeared. She had also been involved in a series of scams, using fake identities to con people out of their savings. Sophia and Daniel gathered all the evidence they could find. They planned to confront Evelyn again, this time with the truth about her own crimes. But before they could act, Evelyn struck first. The next morning, Sophia woke up to a notification on her phone. Her heart dropped when she saw the headline, "Millionaire's Daughter and His Best Friend Linked to Shocking Scandal." The article didn't name names, but it was clear who it was about. It mentioned a young woman and her father's close friend who were suspected of being involved in a high-profile death. The article ended with a chilling line, More details to come. Sophia's hands shook as she showed the article to Daniel. "She's doing it," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "She's exposing us." Daniel's face turned pale. "We need to move fast," he said, "before she ruins us completely." They decided to take drastic measures. That night they drove back to Evelyn's house, armed with the evidence Frank had uncovered. They didn't know what they would do when they got there, but they knew they couldn't wait any longer. When they arrived, the house was dark. The front door was slightly ajar, and the air felt heavy with tension. Sophia hesitated, but Daniel pushed the door open and stepped inside. The house was empty. The photos that had covered the walls were gone, leaving behind faint outlines where they had once hung. The furniture was still there, but it felt like a shell of what it had been. Evelyn had vanished, just like she had all those years ago. On the kitchen table was a single sheet of paper. Sophia picked it up, her hands trembling. It was a note, written in the same bold letters as the others. "You can't stop me. The truth will come out." Sophia felt a wave of despair. Evelyn was always one step ahead. But as she turned to leave, she noticed something on the floor, a small silver key. She picked it up, studying it closely. It looked old, like it belonged to a safety deposit box or a hidden compartment. Daniel's eyes lit up. "This could be our way out," he said. "If Evelyn left this behind, it must be important." They took the key and left the house, their minds racing. What did it unlock? And where was Evelyn now? Back in the city, they searched for anything the key might fit. It wasn't until they returned to Robert's old office that they found the answer. Hidden in the back of a locked drawer was a small metal box. The key fit perfectly. Inside the box was a stack of documents, letters, photos, and a handwritten journal. Sophia's heart raced as she flipped through the pages. The journal was Robert's, and it contained everything. His secrets, his lies, and the truth about Evelyn. But there was something else. A letter addressed to Sophia. She opened it, her hands shaking. "Sophia, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone. I've kept many secrets from you, but there's one thing you need to know. Evelyn isn't who you think she is. She's dangerous, and she'll stop at nothing to destroy us. Protect yourself, and whatever you do, don't trust Daniel." Sophia's breath caught in her throat. She looked up at Daniel, her mind racing. What did her father mean? Why shouldn't she trust Daniel? Before she could say anything, Daniel's phone rang. He answered it, his face turning pale as he listened. "It's Frank," he said, his voice trembling. "He found Evelyn. She's in the city, and she's not alone." Sophia's mind was a whirlwind of confusion and fear as she stared at Daniel. Her father's warning echoed in her head. Don't trust Daniel. But why? What was he hiding? Before she could confront him, Daniel grabbed her arm, his grip tight. "We need to go," he said, his voice urgent. "Frank says Evelyn's in the city and she's not alone. We're running out of time." Sophia pulled away, her eyes narrowing. "What aren't you telling me?" she demanded. Daniel hesitated, his face pale. "Sophia, we don't have time for this," he said, but she wasn't backing down. "My father said not to trust you. What did he mean?" Daniel exhaled sharply, rubbing the back of his neck. "Fine. You want the truth?" His voice was almost too calm. "I helped Evelyn disappear. I thought I was saving her from your father." Sophia's nails dug into her palms. "And me? Was I just part of the plan?" Daniel took a step closer, his eyes unreadable. "You were different a beat. But you never asked how I knew the poison would work." Sophia froze. A sickening chill ran down her spine. "What?" she whispered. Daniel's lips pressed into a tight line, but he didn't answer. Sophia took a step back. "You knew," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You knew because you tested it first." Daniel didn't deny it. The weight of his silence was enough. They drove to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city, a place Daniel said was off the grid. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the smell of rust. Sophia crossed her arms, her heart pounding as she waited for Daniel to explain. "Your father wasn't the only one with secrets. Daniel began, his voice trembling. I loved her first, Sophia, your mother. But Robert, he made her disappear. When she came back, she promised me a life, money, freedom, if I helped her destroy him. Then I met you. You were just like her, but better. Sophia steps back, horrified. You used me. No, I saved you. Robert would have killed you if he found out about us. He reaches for her. She recoils, just like he killed her. A beat. Daniel's silence says everything. She came to me after she faked her death, begging for help. She said Robert was abusive, that she needed to disappear. I helped her, but I didn't know how far she'd go. She started blackmailing me, threatening to expose my role in her disappearance if I didn't do what she wanted. Sophia felt like the ground had been ripped out from under her. You knew she was alive this whole time? She asked, her voice shaking. Daniel nodded, his eyes filled with guilt. I didn't want to hurt you, he said, but Evelyn's dangerous. She's been manipulating us from the start. Sophia's mind raced. Everything she thought she knew was a lie. The man she married, the life they built, it was all built on secrets. What does she want now? Sophia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Daniel hesitated. She wants revenge, he said, not just on your father, but on both of us. She blames us for ruining her life, and she's not going to stop until we pay. Before Sophia could respond, the sound of footsteps echoed through the warehouse. They turned to see Evelyn standing in the doorway, her face cold and unreadable. Behind her were two men, their faces hidden in shadow. You thought you could run from me, Evelyn said, her voice dripping with venom. You thought you could hide? Sophia stepped forward, her heart pounding. Why are you doing this? She asked. What do you want? Evelyn smiled, but there was no warmth in it. I want you to suffer, she said, just like I did. You think you're innocent? You think you're the victim? You're just like your father, selfish, manipulative, and cruel. Daniel stepped in front of Sophia, his voice firm. This ends now, Evelyn, he said. We're not going to let you destroy us. Evelyn laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. You don't get to decide how this ends, she said. I do. With a nod, the two men behind her stepped forward. Sophia's heart raced as she realized they were armed. She and Daniel were trapped, with no way out. But then something unexpected happened. The sirens wailed, flashing red and blue against the darkened warehouse. The police stormed in, weapons drawn, but Evelyn didn't move. Instead, she smiled. Your little detective forgot one thing, she murmured, tilting her head toward Daniel. He thought he was playing me, but I was playing both of you. Sophia barely had time to register the words before a deafening crack rang out. Smoke erupted in the room, thick, suffocating. Someone had set off a flashbang. When Sophia's vision cleared, Evelyn was gone. The only thing left was a note, fluttering to the floor. You'll never be free of me. Sophia watched as Evelyn was taken away, her mind racing. She had thought the nightmare was over, but now she wasn't so sure. In the weeks that followed, Sophia tried to piece her life back together. Evelyn was arrested, but the damage was done. The media had caught wind of the story, and Sophia's life was turned upside down. She was hounded by reporters, her every move scrutinized. Daniel tried to be there for her, but the trust between them was broken. Sophia couldn't forget what he had kept from her, and the more she thought about it, the more she realized she didn't really know him at all. One night, as she sat alone in the penthouse, Sophia made a decision. She packed her bags and left, leaving behind the life she had built with Daniel. She didn't know where she was going, but she knew she couldn't stay. As she drove away, Sophia glanced in the rearview mirror. A shadow flickered in the back seat, a hooded figure, silent. She smiled and pressed the gas. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew one thing for sure. She would never let anyone control her again. Months later, Sophia received a letter. It was from Evelyn, written from prison. Sophia, you think you've won, but you haven't. You're just like me, trapped in a web of lies and secrets, but there's one thing you don't know. Daniel wasn't the only one who helped me fake my death. Ask Daniel why your father's hands were around my throat that night. Then ask yourself, who really poured the poison? And now you're just like him, alone, broken, and haunted by the past. The truth will always find you. Sophia crumpled the letter in her hands, her heart heavy. She didn't know if Evelyn's words were true, but she knew one thing. She would never stop running from the truth. Sophia's hands clenched around the letter, the paper crinkling beneath her grip. Evelyn was lying. She had to be. But as she read the final lines again, a cold realization settled over her. Ask Daniel why your father's hands were around my throat that night. Then ask yourself, who really poured the poison? Sophia's breath hitched. Her memories of that night had always been clear. Her father's words, the glass of whiskey, his final breath. But what if they weren't? What if her mind had rearranged the truth to make it bearable? What if the poison had already been in his drink before she even picked up the bottle? She grabbed Robert's journal from the passenger seat, her fingers ghosting over the worn leather cover. She had sworn she wouldn't look, wouldn't let him control her again. But as the gas station lights flickered ahead, she pulled over. Hands trembling, she flipped to the last page. She didn't know if Evelyn's words were true, but she knew one thing. She would never stop running from the truth. Sophia drives, the city dissolving into darkness. Robert's journal sits heavy in her lap. She tells herself she won't read it, won't let him pull her back. But as the gas station lights flicker ahead, she slows the car. Hands trembling, she flips to the last page. Robert, VO. You are your mother's daughter, Sophia. You already know the truth. In the reflection of the gas station window, Sophia doesn't recognize herself. Rearing mirror, a police car flashes its lights. Sophia pulls over, hands trembling. You. License and registration. Sophia hands them over. The officer takes too long studying her face. A second too long. Casual. Your mother always said you were the smart one. The officer's gaze lingered a second too long. Then a smirk. Too knowing. She always said you were the smart one. Dread coiled in her gut, heavy and cold. Sophia's pulse pounded. The car felt smaller. She clenched the wheel. The journal dug into her lap. Not the vial. Not yet.